Hello, everyone, and welcome to this January news episode for 2025 of What's New in Cloud FinOps with myself, Stephen Old, and my great friend,
Franck Contrepoix.
This is like our third recording of the year, but our first news recording of this year.
Yes.
And we've got another recording hopefully next week or so. We are catching up, everyone. It has been a busy time. And maybe, Frank, we should start with why it's been so busy for you.
It's been very busy because I did change jobs. So now I work as director of Green Ops for a company called Green Pixie. And it still takes the curve file, but adds data. Because I love my curve file. But we add data about carbon consumption for each line item and water consumption for each line item. So if people want to showcase how good they're doing with sustainability, here we go.
But it's more than just a curve file, though. Does this mean you're finally going to have to learn about billing data in the other clouds?
Yes. So I am already. That's why I'm pushing very hard toward focus. Come on, get out of there.
This might mean finally we can let you do some Azure and Google news in time. But let's crack on. It's not too heavy a news day today.
No.
People were respectful in January of our lack of time and made it quite easy. Let's start then. Instances and compute, and so we're heavily Googleified. Today we have the A3 Ultra type is available in Belgium. I think that's the only. It became generally available and it's gone into Belgium.
Interesting.
Which I found in the release notes. But it is a main announcement that it's there generally. So this is using GPUs for inference. It is the new NVIDIA H100 800 gigabyte GPU, and you can get machine types of 1, 2, 4, and 8 GPUs. Accessing the smaller H10 machine types now starts at 1 GPU, which is the A3 high GPU 1G, and then it has 2G, 4G, 8G, and then a mega GPU 8G as well. And so you have different versions. So for the 1, 2, and 4, you can use them for Vertex AI and Compute Engine and GKE as well for Spot or Flex Start mode. For the 8G and the Mega 8G, on-demand Spot, DWS Flex, and DWS Calendar mode for GKS and GKE and GCE.
There we go.
Yeah, so a few different purchase options, quite a big chip. Next one is still with Google.
But, if you've listened to our previous episode when we interviewed Anthony, remember that each one of them, that's me, green hat on, each of these GPUs usually consume 500 watts. Okay.
Yeah, it was a huge amount, wasn't it?
8 of them are 4 kilowatts. That's massive. Try to use as little as you need for your needs.
So I have 28 solar panels in my house.
Yes.
Which are 400 watts each. And I think the peak I've ever got is about 6 kilowatts on what is a pretty big system. And that, one of these machines, I bet that mega GPU 8G would eat the entire, at peak sunshine in the north of the UK, which I know is not massive, would eat the entire system. But yeah, you're quite right. It's a lot. So the next one is the C4A, the first Google Axion processor, now GA with titanium SSD. It has up to 6 terabytes in the SSD disks. That's the main thing it's talking about here. But it's up to 65% better price performance and up to 6% better energy efficiency than the comparable x86 based engines. So when we were talking to Anthony, he was talking a lot about using the Gravitons, i.e. using the ARM stuff. I think generally we talked about ARM, didn't we? And this is the comparison. The Axion processor is the Google version. Offers up to 72 CPUs and 576 gigabytes of memory, which is still huge, but compared to the things we were just talking about is relatively moderate refrain, good
Yes.
refrain. And it's going to be available in on-demand, spot, and reservations, whatever reservations means in Google, and committed use discounts and flex codes. Reservations? They don't have reservations. Anyway, and it's going to be available in Iowa, Virginia, Belgium, Netherlands, Frankfurt, and London, Singapore as a starting point, and it'll come to new regions soon. And finally, generally available in Compute Engine, managed instance groups let you create pools of suspended and stopped VM instances. You can manually suspend and stop VMs in a MIG to save on costs and use suspended and stopped pools to speed up scale out operations of your MIG. So basically a more controlled way of starting and stopping at a larger scale, which I think is quite cool. I don't think I've ever read up on anyone doing that. I don't know if I've just never tried to see if it's possible. I would always just Lambda it normally and just kind of, I'd put some sort of code in that went and selected it, but this is a simpler way. Right.
That's cool.
Data, DBs, and AI. I've added the AI bit in, Frank, because for me, it is just another form of AI. Another form of data. Right. So Azure, and this actually came out last year, and I can't remember us talking about it. Obviously, we're in a new document now. For those who don't know how we run this, we do an annual document with all the notes that we take. And it came out in June, but I found it in the 2024 Azure Cost Management Review, which is released. I've also talked about something today in the February review, which I think came out because some of the stuff came out in January, but there wasn't a January one. But I went back and looked at the 2024 one, and I found this. And basically, they gave you Azure provisioned reservations for OpenAI. And the reason I don't think we mentioned it is because that's a 1 month and a 1 year provision reservation.
Ooh.
And I think we would have remembered 1 month.
Yes.
But yeah, you know what I mean? Maybe we did talk about it. But anyway, I thought that was interesting. It does offer substantial discounts compared to pay-as-you-go. But as I read through the whole document, it talked about how they apply and stuff like that, which was great, but nowhere about the actual level of discount. And as anyone knows that goes into this case, it can be quite complicated quite quickly. But some of it's also confused by the fact that it can be applied to different, because they've got pay-as-you-go, MCA, and EA. And so it might be because of that, and you'd have to look at how it applies to yours specifically. But it automatically gets applied to units that are deployed in a specific region as long as they fall within the scope of reservation. Pretty standard stuff. And then it kind of works out the monthly amortized cost and stuff, but I couldn't find anywhere with a discount. And I then got lost in Google release notes afterwards. So.
And I've just looked at what reservations are for Google. So it seems that you have a high chance of getting the hardware you're asking for.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
So to obtain a high level of assurance that VM's instances with the same properties are available in a specific zone when you need them.
Capacity
so you can say in advance and say, hey, at that date, I have a marketing event. Do you have 200 VMs available of this type?
Yeah, that makes sense. I thought it might be that you can get discounts on certain OSs and disks within Google. And I thought maybe I'd misremembered, and that was called reservations. But no, it's the capacity reservation stuff. That's fine. That made me feel a bit better because obviously I helped write the run book on Google commits for GCP for the FinOps Foundation, and I was worried that maybe I really didn't know what I was on about. Right.
We all forget stuff like this. It can happen. There are so many things. Come on. Maestro Music storage. I'm going to start. So we have Amazon S3 metadata is now generally available. So that's quite an interesting thing, is that if you want to discover and understand your Amazon S3 data, you can interrogate the metadata directly without having to integrate the individual files. So the idea is that metadata is saved into an S3 tables, which is something new. I think we've talked about it last month. But the idea is you have tables that only contain metadata. And that's important because, for example, all the file names or directories are in some sort of way metadata. So if you want to know how many files do you have written with a certain format, it is on a file system, a normal file system. It is only metadata that's interrogated. In Unix, that would be inodes, if I remember. But in Amazon S3, you needed to go through each individual file and read it and get information. Well, in this case, you just do one query and you get all the results, and then you can get the real data you care about. So that should reduce enormously, hopefully, for anyone who does not know the name of files or need that access to metadata, potentially security with data to do the testing, the auditing, all this kind of stuff should now be can be done directly interrogating a table through Athena or something like this. So
fantastic.
That's it.
A nice easy one for me, whatever, but not there, is that Azure NetApp Files now supports a minimum volume size of 50 gigabytes. And the reason I say it's so easy is because it used to be 100. So now you can get a half the size volume. But for NetApp files, I mean, that is small. I mean, you're only using NetApp files, you generally think about using a big thing, like even 100 gigs seems small, but obviously they've had a request for it or a requirement for it, and it helps you save costs and free up space in the capacity pool. So it might be just about how you split it.
I would say also a pre-prod, for example. When you have a pre-prod, you know that prod run on 5 terabyte on net. NetApp, and so you can ask just a 50 gig to do the testing, but at the same time, they can guarantee roughly the same performance on both. So you really test your pre-prod or you test your prod through pre-prod in a positive way, in a good way, possibly.
Yeah,
Yes.
Nicely talking about NetApp in the world of storage, because obviously now they have sold their FinOps portfolio.
Yes.
As well. Right, I think I've got another one, haven't I?
Yes,
generally available Azure File Provisioned V2 billing for HDD standard. So this actually came out in October 24. I think we may have talked about it, but it came up again in the search I do because it was added to the roadmap on the 8th of January 2025. What that means, I do not know. Maybe it means it just didn't go onto the place where we do our usual searches. All is the V2 model of Azure Files pairs predictability of total cost of ownership with flexibility, allowing you to create a file share that meets your exact storage and performance requirements. It shares independent provisioning of storage IOPS and throughput, in addition to predictable pricing and flexible provisioning. Provision V2 also enables increased scale and performance up to 256 terabytes, 50,000 IOPS, and 5 gigasecond of throughput. So I do think we spoke about this because you could basically pick and choose different areas and then you got charged by those. And so while it gives you real predictability, you've got to do some maths in the first place to work it out, but it's relatively sensible. Right. Visibility, which can cover anything from billing conductor, tags, cost categories, or in this case, that some new fields for cost allocation were added for enterprise agreement customers. Basically, you can use different levels of hierarchy, and it had quite a good diagram in this. So this was in, I believe, the Feb update for cost management in Azure, and a nice picture. Basically had the way it hangs together, subscription into the, resource group and subscription into blah, 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 blah. And what they're saying is added into the data, the billing data, the account ID column and the invoice section column, which had previously been empty, has now been populated with the department ID. And unlike names, these IDs are unique for your enrollment and remain constant. So, for allocation needs, having that thing that always remains the same, can't be changed, means you have that kind of reference point. So even if you changed the name of something because maybe it was now going to report into a different department, but you wanted to be able to see the history of it, gives you that alternate slice, I think, is what I quite liked about it. And these are available through the exports as well as the cost details API.
What is an account ID on Azure?
Oh man! So are you horrible human being?
I'm learning. You told me I need to learn.
Yeah. So account ID is higher. So you have subscriptions, probably closest to an account.
Okay. Yes.
In AWS, this is above that. So you have tenants as well. So it's quite like a payer account almost, I think.
Yeah, okay.
And feel free, everyone that's just listened to me get that wrong, to message us at podcast@finopsguys.co.uk and correct me on that, because I haven't got that picture open
You can also use LinkedIn, by the way.
Oh,
you
yeah.
can
And
send
any way
us,
you like to shout at me for getting that wrong.
yeah, just put us one of the two, and we'll make
Yeah.
sure.
My problem is I'm obviously my knowledge is shrouded by having been a partner for so many years, and I see it all from the partner side. And so we used to have tenants to an our account ID, but how it works if you're directing an EA, I'd have to go and look again. It's just too much to keep in your head across these three cloud vendors, isn't it? And the final one I've got is Copilot Nudges has come out, or people have probably seen it. How we feel about that generally, I don't know. But on a FinOps point of view, Azure are thrilled to announce the launch of a new feature aimed at enhancing your experience with the Copilot Assistant. We've added simple prompt/nudges to the overview page to encourage and guide users to interact with Copilot more effectively. These prompts are meticulously designed to guide users through essential functionalities such as breaking down current costs, comparing costs across different periods, and forecasting, all without encountering issues related to prompt engineering. Most people probably won't understand the final part of that sentence. What I will tell you is that it's really driving you to use Copilot more and more. It's attempting to make it easier and to see the value of it on all of this, because I think they have been disappointed by, this is just an outside looking in, the amount of people that buy in Copilot and enterprise level due to the costs.
Well, yes, and it's I think they've reduced the cost, and it's everyone said we all talk about AI, but it's still trying to figure out what it's made for you. Yeah. You have companies that have been using AI forever and they know exactly how to monetize it, but others, most of us really just know that, I can give my data and get some answers, but is it worth the money? That's the big question. Is there a real use case? As we talked with Anthony, it was the specialization of AI eventually that will help us possibly. Well, that will help that, I think.
Yeah.
Anyway, music maestro.
Oh, it's me again. Generally available changes to instance size flexibility ratios for the Azure reserved instance for the M series. Do I have this one open? I hopefully do. So it's basically size flexibility.
Okay.
Deadly honest. So the MS series is the fractional high memory group, as instance family group. And so for the M8 4MS and the M8MS and the 8M2MS, these are all standards, by the way, they have a ratio of 1. Then the 16s have a ratio of 2, and the 32s have a ratio of 4. It's a bit like normalized units, and it just allows you to buy a reservation that you can change the instance type on, so the size. Yeah, so if you bought 4, then you could have that as 2 16s or 4 8s or 1 32.
It's getting messier and messier, though. That's who AWS removes stuff as you add stuff.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, they do. Right, noises again. And savings. There's a public preview to reduce costs with hibernation in Azure Dev Test Labs, which we all use all the time. And so what does this basically mean? The new hibernation feature helps optimize costs by pausing virtual machines while preserving their state, making it easy to resume work without losing progress. So it's hibernation, but within your labs, your dev test lab, which are part of your kind of Azure DevOps world, being able to do that. So again, I think it's something that already exists. Obviously, you can already hibernate, but it allows you to hibernate really easily across your test environments very quickly. Oh, finally.
FinOps, and they're all mine on this one.
Yeah.
So we have AWS Compute Optimizer now expands idle and right-sizing recommendation for Amazon EC2 auto-scaling groups. So AWS Cloud Optimizer, that's the same with scaling policies and multiple instance types. With the new recommendation, you can take action to optimize cost and performance on these groups without requiring specialized knowledge or engineering resource to analyze them. So it's going to take scaling group and help you make the right and deciding if they are, if each instance is the right size or if they're idle. So it helps the FinOps people not ask the engineers or provide things which make sense. And we're discussing it before, just even that, recommendations, something that's getting better over time, still for some stuff. Well, no, we're talking about anomaly detection, which is very hard. Recommendations are really getting good. And in this case, you can have recommendations and right-sizing recommendation directly in your EC2 auto-scaling groups. Next one is, it's interesting. It would be definitely interesting. Before AWS Marketplace introduces 8 decimal place precision for usage pricing. So I think the curve is 12 decimal places.
Okay. What was it before? Was it 4 before?
Probably 4, yes. Yeah. And it's complicated. As soon as for 2 reasons. First, there is as soon as you start doing percents, you get usually lots of decimals. And the other thing is that it's not a bug, but I recommend you search that. There are some, if you do 1 plus 0.2 on an Excel, it's going to give you a strange number. If you expand it to 12 decimals, you're going to see that at the end of the 12, you're going to have a number. The idea is that all computers talk in binary, so in base 2. They don't talk in base 10, so they make mistakes in some form or way that we usually do not see. But that means that sometimes those 8 decimal values are important. So for a computer can put it in the correct order on the other side too. Anyway. 8 decimal place for your AWS Marketplace now. And also, still, it's kind of, I don't know if it's just the Marketplace, but everything. But now, AWS now accept payments in 8 new local currencies. And so, Amazon US customers, which is quite interesting, can choose to pay in Chilean pesos. Interesting. So, US customers. Colombian pesos, Uruguayan pesos, and similarly, AWS Europe customer can pay in Egyptian pound, Nigerian naira, Polish zloty, Romanian, Ukrainian lira, etc., for credit card only. So this is quite interesting. Is when you have customers which are abroad. So, for example, you're a partner. Let's say in the UK, you're working with. In this case, let's say a Ukrainian company, you might want them to pay. They will be able to pay in their own currency, and you will be able to pay AWS in their own currency. So it reduce the risk of foreign exchange risk from your perspective.
And it won't, just while we talk about Marketplace, it won't have come up in the news because it's not a release, but they've started enforcing that for a marketplace purchase to go towards your pricing agreement that we can't talk too much about. They have to be AWS hosted or powered by AWS. And so now beginning to see, and that's kind of always been the rules, but I don't know how well it's been applied. It's been very hard to discern which ones are and aren't. And so now they're going to have basically a badge on the marketplace page that says it's powered by AWS.
Okay. Very interesting.
Is my understanding from Rich.
Okay. Well, I think it's they need to, because if they're going to enforce it, they need to review them, because it's going to be very hard because lots of tools use other tools. How does that work?
Exactly.
Anyway, if the customer wants to use Azure authentication or Google authentication, what am I supposed to do there? Interesting. Anyway, I have another one. So I'm not an expert there. AWS Elastic Beanstalk adds additional spot allocation strategies. So Elastic Beanstalk is expanding its spot allocation strategy option to include capacity optimized, prioritized, lower price, or price capacity optimized. So in addition to the existing default capacity optimized strategy. So all of a sudden you can have the scaling of your Beanstalk done not only on capacity optimized, so that you always have capacity, but you could also get lowest price, which might reduce the quality, I guess, that you provide your customers. But at the same time, if it's good enough and cheap for you, that's fine.
Have you ever used Beanstalk?
Once, and also for the exams. But the other bit was that now they tell you to use Amplify. I was about to use Beanstalk, and there was a thing say use Amplify. Okay, so I moved to Amplify.
So I was trying to put something into Lambda. Is that right? Was I doing in Lambda? Yeah, I was doing in Lambda, and I was having some issues because I was packaging from a Windows machine, and therefore it took Windows binary stuff across. And it's just dawned on me that I probably could have packaged that into Beanstalk, because Beanstalk I don't think is Linux specific, is it?
No, but really Beanstalk is about, I would say it's the simple version of CloudFormation almost. No, but it's you just need to say.
I thought you could just deploy your code there and it would sort it out.
Kind of, but the idea is really it deploys an environment. So it will deploy the load balancer, the front end, the 3-tier. Or if you say yes, but I want also an environment that's going to run I want queues, so that then there is an elaboration and send it back. That's also, you can choose those two things. So you can create an application without worrying too much about the architecture underneath for your 3-tier or 2-tier. It's just standard. So that's
I could just put it on a VM. It's simple. What I'm doing is simple enough. I could just put it onto a VM. I was just trying to do something a bit more clever.
No, that you're just going to do probably slightly more costly. That's it. So no.
Yeah, fine. Well, there we go. Hey, what a great learning for the.
Here we go.
Right, do I need to press a sound again?
Yes, I'm pretty sure you do. And it's going to be Misc and silly because there is nothing on sustainability.
No, there wasn't.
So I have two things, which is Amazon Event Bridge announces direct delivery to cross-account targets. And I was torn initially, but then now it looks it's going to be cool. So Amazon Event Bridge Event Bus now allows you to deliver event directly to AWS services in another account. So in the past, you needed to send an Event Bridge event to another Event Bridge event into another account and then send it to the application. Now instead, you can just throw it directly to the service on the other side. So it should improve security, it should streamline business processes, and it should also reduce the cost of how much you're spending each hop. Hope? Well, no, not hope, but anyway, each jump you need to do to get there. So you can now, for example, route event from your Event Bridge event bus directly to a different team's SQS queue in a different account. And so they don't need to learn or maintain Event Bridge resources. So that should make it simpler. That should make also your architecture simpler. And also if you are building in multiple account structure, with each account specializing in something or for individual teams, you do not need to have each of them running Event Bridge. That's quite cool. The other one is AWS Management Console now supports simultaneous sign-in for multiple AWS accounts. I have good and bad things to say about that one. I've tried it extensively because I was living in 5 accounts, and that was brilliant. Usually I would have one Chrome, one Chrome Anonym, one Firefox, and one Firefox Anonym to keep everything open. In this case, you can just keep it all, and you can move even between roles, between accounts, between things very easily on the console. So it's brilliant. You can have multiple accounts and multiple user and password combination opened at the same time, and you can switch reasonably easily between each other. The inconvenient is I was trying stuff with Lex, which is the bot builder, and it was failing miserably, and I was getting mad. I mean, I've lost 2 hours there.
Oh, really?
Because the message was a little red and say, oh yeah, account ID is not found. Really? And it is a field that you cannot change. So it needs to generate the account ID. And I've discovered that it could not get the account ID due to the multi-account sign-in. It was just absolutely. And so if I had to remove that, and all of a sudden it could find the account. So I don't know, I was writing just the code. I think it was of a knowledge base in Bedrock, and it was showing the full ARN, but without the ID. I can write it manually if you want. No, not possible. And so it was painful. So if you see any mistakes, any error that pops up and say cannot find account ID, it's probably that. And so that's where you see it's tested. But that's the inconvenience of the 2 pizza team, I'd say. But at the same time, it happen on very complicated system like Amazon, AWS. It would be normal to have some stuff breaking. So yeah, especially if you're on the latest stuff, high level, the one overreaching, or not overreaching, but yeah, impacting multiple services at the same time, aggregation of services like Lex, might break. That's it.
Well done.
Here we go.
Look at you doing clever stuff. I need to actually send you some of this because we've got one thing we haven't spoken about yet is that myself and you will be at it's called the Cloud and AI Infrastructure 2025 event. Well, used to be Cloud Expo, is that right?
12 and 13. Okay. 12 and 13 of March. We're going to be at the Excel. Steve and I, if you go to the Excel randomly, there will be one tech conference. That's where we are.
That is true. Absolutely. It's called Cloud and AI Infrastructure 2025. I was right. Look at me. And we will be on a stand near the exit of the main stage. This is not as FinOps guys, but this is our two organizations have both got space there. So we'll be talking a lot about sustainability and green ops. And me and Frank are going to try to build something before then to demo, but who knows whether we'll have time. But there will be FinOps guys stickers.
Yes.
As well as other goodies and stickers will be available that aren't ours. And we may or may not have our hoodies on. And
as usual, if we go around and if you see the red glasses, just stop. You will be with Siniega branding, probably if you're not in FinOps guys. I will be in Green Pixie branding. So if you see us, and we'll usually work together. So it's easy to recognize.
Dude. Perfect. Well, Frank, thank you so much. I will speak to you again in a few days while we do the research for the next month, and we will hopefully have February's following this one really quickly. It will be like buses. 3 will come within a very short amount of time. But thank you everyone so much for listening, and I look forward to speaking to you all again.
Bye-bye.